Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Freemode Heroes, the series that you forget exists until the moment an episode drops. In this installation, we have a rather interesting fellow who goes by the name of REAL Savage Salty Cabbage. Well, it's certainly up there in the list of wackiest usernames I've ever seen, but for someone who's new to the YouTube scene, he does a pretty good job of editing in my opinion. Let's now take a look at what tips and tricks Mr. Cabbage has for us in the world of GTA Online Freemode battling.
Hello. You can just call me Cabbage. I run a business called Try Hard May Cry here in Los Santos. We dispatch of any sort of troublemakers that we come across. Of course, this is actually a front for what we really do. I'm the chairman of a Yakuza crew called RCTC, and we wage turf wars all across Los Santos to be able to take what's ours. I was contracted to be able to teach the casual audience of GTA Online how to be able to defend themselves. Of course, I don't actually specialize in just one thing. I consider myself a jack of all trades. However, I will be teaching you how to defend yourself on foot today. This will not just be how to do it on ground, but I will also be including all of the RCs. The RCs of GTA Online actually get a lot of negative rep from the tryhards and other sorts of players with a similar mindset. It doesn't help that you can spam RCs between the different cooldowns that they have. To those that spam, I say that you're using a crutch, and not using them the way that they should be able to help you, as an equalizer. I believe that with the right balance of using them, RCs actually blend in very well with fighting on ground. So I'm going to be teaching you a playstyle today, more than just one particular thing. I don't want to waste any more time, as this episode is already looking pretty lengthy, so let's go ahead and jump in. Each segment will get right to the point. For this segment, we will cover the RC tank as a whole, starting with where to buy it, the pricing on weapons, the cooldown, armor, tactics, etc, etc, etc. This is my most used RC, but ever since GTA Online was re-released for next-gen consoles, it's been nerfed in a way with excessive cops ramming you, over and over.
Ah, look, it's Helly's friend over there.
Bruh.
Look, it's Helly's friend.
Apologies for that interruption. Don't mind my good friend. He's fun. You probably know him more than you know me. Despite this harsh RCTC style punishment on screen, he will help with the rest of the video. As luck would have it, the RC tank is the easiest one to own due to needing no prior properties. The tank simply costs 2.275 million, and as you can see, it can be customized in any LS Customs. The only thing to change are the livery, color, and most importantly, the weapons. There are only two weapons worth choosing for your RC tank. The missile launcher is 205k. If you're confident in your aim, this weapon is for you. The projectile does have some range, but the shots need to be led if fighting from afar. The plasma cannon, my main, costs 285k. This has the most range and turns your tank into a minigun on wheels, whereas the starter gun is like a pistol on wheels. Slow fire rate, low damage, though headshots do insta-kill if opponents are helmetless. The flamethrower is by far the worst and most disappointing. Take my word for it. No range, the flame has the physics of a water truck, which means the flame does not travel well in motion. The DPS is even worse than the stock gun too. Flame doesn't even ignite explosives. Overall, it's a sad weapon. In any event, before we dive deeper, I want to say it's a good idea to make use of the different camera perspectives when using the select button on controllers, from first person to the furthest FOV. They all have their uses, and it's a matter of finding which one you are the most comfortable with. The RC tank has a 2-minute cooldown, compared to the bandito's 1-minute cooldown. Let's look at the weapons. The missile launcher first. The missile travels 30 tiles. It has a 1-tile blast radius, but a direct hit will insta-kill. The explosion can also set off other explosives, like sticky bombs. The plasma cannon is what I use, so I'm more well versed in it. The range of the cannon is over 75 plus tiles, This is a pretty large portion of Legion Square. Of course, the further out you shoot, the more inaccurate it gets. The cannon can also shoot and activate sticky bombs. The RC tank, by default, comes with a jump. It's much more grand than the jump of the RC Bandito. The downside is that the weapon nozzle points upwards, rendering it unusable during a leap. There is only a few seconds where the RC tank can still shoot as the nozzle points upwards, so it's situationally useful. While the jump is big, it can't avoid the radius of an RPG or homing directly below it. Regardless of the weapon, the RC tank cannot aim very far down, so when you use it, you don't want opponents below or high above you. Now as for mobility, the RC tank is slower than a Bandito. The acceleration is slower too, but it has the speed to eventually pass sprinting players. Since it has the nozzle, thankfully it doesn't need speed as much, since you'll want to fight with a distance anyway. Due to the acceleration and the nozzle limitations, the RC tank is at its weakest when traversing steep slopes. You will need to utilize zigzag motions and the handbrake repeatedly in order to make it up slopes. That is, if you even want to go up these slopes as an RC tank. When using the RC tank in combat, you want to mostly keep your distance, and always stay in motion. I have some example footage in this background with my friend, but I will still tell you some good ideas to try with the RC. Firstly, jumping over your opponent. When you rush your opponent, who might be spamming explosives, time your jump to go over them and take minimal damage. You're an RC, so you're still light, and thus you don't want to be knocked around. As you jump, there is two things you can do to keep up your assault, since you will end up behind your enemy. The first is simple. On controller, click and hold the right stick to enter back cam. You can then shoot easily into your enemy. If you're looking for something with more flair, you can hold the handbrake button to rotate your RC to do a 180. You should land front facing if you do this right. You can keep your momentum by driving in reverse instead, and can shoot your enemy. As a whole, it is effective against the brain dead, but smarter foes may predict where you go, to shoot you as you land. My other favorite is to drive in circles in place while assaulting the foe. Simply hold down the gas while going clockwise, and shoot the enemy. Mix up your timing by changing which way you circle. Keep your distance, and you will find that most people won't predict a good shot on you. On average, the RC tank can take 5 explosives. Let's break this down. And since I'm a bit of a moron and forgot to get the footage, 2 flat cannon shots, 28 E rounds, and 5 seconds of explosive cannon fire. You will need an Arena War Workshop to be able to own and customize the RC Bandito. The base price for the Arena War Workshop is going to be $995k. The base price for the RC Bandito is going to cost $1.59 million. It's going to cost $275k to install the main weapons, which are explosives. $135k is going to be needed for kinetic mines, or $150k for the EMP mines. $210k is going to be needed for the 100% jump ability. Do not skimp on the jump ability, you want 100%. There's a park near Maze Bank Tower in the downtown area of the city. It has a bunch of these little tiles. Since I'm bad at math and giving distance for measurements and all that stuff, we're going to be using these tiles for our measurements here. Anyone who's good at math can do that stuff in the comments below, or keep that all to themselves. But either way, let's get down to the calculations for things like blast radius. The blast radius for an RC Bandito is about 4 tiles, in all directions. This is if we're counting the space between the Bandito and the player. So if you're within this range, you will die from its explosion. Kinetic mines have a 9 to 10 tile blast radius. This is, of course, an all directions explosion, and a very big one at that. Watch out if you think there's a kinetic mine near you. Kinetic mines are also very much capable of setting off sticky bombs and other types of explosives near them. EMP mines are more of a team player's choice. This is to specifically be able to disable vehicles so that they can't really go anywhere for a short period of time. Of course, if a weaponized vehicle drives over an EMP mine, they're still going to be able to use their weapon systems. So best coordinate and have your allies move in quick on an EMP'd vehicle like that. No matter which type of mine you choose to go with for the RC Bandito, you only get 3 for each run of the Bandito that you're in. That means you get 3 EMP mines, or 3 kinetic mines. It's also worth mentioning right now that the RC Bandito has a 1-minute cooldown between its uses. That means that every time it gets blown up, you're going to have to wait exactly 1 minute before you're allowed to call it back in again. The max speed of the RC Bandito is much faster than a sprinting player, so if someone is trying to run away from the area on foot, you'll be able to catch up to them pretty easily. The acceleration of the RC Bandito is also pretty rapid in and of itself, so it doesn't take too long to be able to get in top speed. The main thing you're going to have difficulty with is trying to maintain a balance with the RC Bandito while traveling at these high speeds. Curbs tend to trip up the RC Bandito, on top of the fact that it's able to tilt itself over whenever trying to take sharp turns, so you have to be careful with navigation. The RC Bandito's second method of attacking people is tackling players. Peer-to-peer connection makes this a little tricky, however. The most guaranteed way is to tackle by doing the jump right as you're about to hit them in the feet anyway. Running over the person's ankles is mostly guaranteed. However, because of lag and other instances of internet latency, you might find that you run through their legs and nothing happens. This is where the tackle picks up. Hit them square in the chest or back to knock them off their feet and get them in a ragdoll state, where you'll be able to further attack them by either running them over or detonating. On average, the RC Bandito takes 3 explosives to be able to destroy. Here are some following clips that show its exact durability with exact explosives counts. To be perfectly honest with the viewers at home, RCPVs are my least used RC. They vary widely among state cars, but I will run you through their basics nonetheless. Mainly, we'll talk on what little I know that they can do, so that you can experiment on your own. Okay, let's talk necessities. After buying any agency, you'll need to buy its vehicle workshop add-on for 800k. The agency itself can cost up to 2.8 million for its base price. Then, any 8 of the ImAnI TeCh cars must have the RC feature installed, which will cost 235k as well. I won't run through all of the car costs, but let's take a look at all 8 vehicles that can go RC. The Dubachi Champion, the Annis Theody, the Class Ranger 3600LX, the Bravado Greenwood, Annis Jubilee, Annis Patriot Milspec, Obey Omnis EGT, and the Buffalo STX. Whichever car you get, I recommend getting one that looks the most like a civilian vehicle, and to customize it like so. Also, do not skip out on the armor plating option if you want to tank explosives. Lastly, most RCPVs have a machine gun option for around 150k. Now, let's look into the RCPV basic functions. First and foremost, know that you are forced into first person when driving the RCPV. Moving on from that, You can actually escort players in your car when using the RC mode. In big free mode battles, it's a good support move to have this off-radar taxi that can pick up your allies at a moment's notice. Just keep in mind, every time you finish using the RC, there is a 2-minute cooldown. The RCPP can detonate, but its blast radius is pathetic. A 1-tile blast radius, that's all you get. This tiny explosion can set you back by up to 20k in insurance cost if you're a console player. Use it as a last resort attack instead. Instead, your main attack focus will be to run over people. This is why you want the disguise to look civvy. Players will not expect it. And with that, let's move on by talking armor values. It took some time to gather the information myself, but as far as RPG and homing resistance goes, 7 of the 8 ImAnI TeCh cars all share the same armor as long as you're using the armor plating. These cars will tank 4 RPGs and 12 homings, but there's one exception of the 8 that has better armor. The Obey Omnis EGT. The Omnis will instead tank 12 RPGs or 12 homings. These cars obviously vary in weight and shape though, so whatever you choose, just go for the one that you like or makes the most sense to you. Right, one last thing. You can install Slick Mines for 135k. There are 3 types of drones usable in free mode that we'll be covering: the Terabyte drone, the Nano drone, and the Arcade drone. However, the Nano drone and Arcade drone are almost one and the same, so other than listing their few differences, they will be talked about as one, for the most part. On that note, if I don't repeat myself about a fact when talking about any drone, assume it applies to all drones. Let's go ahead and start with pricing and prerequisites. You're going to need a Terabyte, obviously. You'll also need an Arcade. The Terabyte drone station costs 815k as an add-on to the Terabyte. The Arcade drone station costs 1.46 million as an add-on to any Arcade. When you buy it though, it includes the Nano drone. No extra cost. Let's take a look at each drone, and I'll tell you where they can be cast from. The Arcade drone can be launched from your Arcade basement. It has a 5-minute cooldown. The Arcade drone has infinite horizontal range. However, it will still cut out if you go too high or too low. The Terabyte drone is launched from the inside of the Terabyte. It has a 1-minute cooldown. The range is limited, but still flexible. This drone is the slowest out of all 3 versions, however, so I would suggest using it defensively, rather than to initiate an attack. Additionally, the taser will stop you from using the self-destruct, but only for the Terabyte drone. When the tase refreshes, you're good to choose to do it again, or blow up. Last but not least, the Nano drone. It shares the 5-minute cooldown of the Arcade drone. This is the drone you will want to use primarily when opponents are around corners, or perched above you. Taking shelter and using the Nano drone is your safest choice. The Nano and Arcade drone are the quickest of all. It eventually can catch up to a sprinting player. It's small, so hard to see. It is loud though, so Evo-happy players may Evo if they know it is there. You can still detonate if you use its taser. The detonation will just happen to be slower. The range is short. This is where it starts to lose connection. All drones can currently go underwater. However, it's slow underwater, and boosting has no effect when submerged. None of the drones have any explosive resistance, so any stray explosion will take them out of commission. And lastly, all drones have a 2-tile blast radius. When all is said and done, you start all these RCs while on foot, and end with being on foot. As I explained before, you don't want to just spam RCs. There's a balance needed, so that you're not hopeless without them. I'm no master of fighting with just the weapons in my wheel, but I've played a long while, and I know for a fact I can teach you the basics to survive. This segment is under the impression that you have max stats, rank 120 minimum, and the Mark II weapons and add-ons unlocked in Bunker Research. You won't excel well otherwise, since the higher your rank, the more health you have. Not to mention the perks of the other things I mentioned. The weapon wheel is where we'll start. What guns you own is very important, but so is keeping the wheel free of clutter. If you want to narrow it down, you can purchase a gun locker for any property that supports one. This will allow you to hide certain weapons from your wheel, and then, this custom loadout can be toggled on or off in the inventory section of your interaction menu. Let's take a look at an underutilized ability. When aiming down sights with most guns, you can press left on D-pad to toss a throwable quickly, with less range. The throwable it uses depends on what's selected in the weapon pool. This can turn the tide of battle very quick. With this strategy in mind, I now want to show you how to defend yourself from RCs if you're stuck on foot. For the bandito, you will want an up and atomizer and the sticky bombs. Use the up and atomizer to upset the bandito's vehicle balance. Then, while aiming, toss a sticky bomb with the D-pad trick and detonate it with the same input to damage the bandito. Remember, it takes 3 sticky bombs to do this. This can also work against an RC tank, but there's a few issues. For one, the RC tank has a gun, so if you upset its balance, there's a chance you accidentally help it get a headshot on you. The RC tank can take advantage of it having a gun to keep distance too. Instead, use the homing launcher. Don't lock on fully with the launcher, but you can aim and shoot with it to shoot quick explosive projectiles. The RC tank takes 5 homings compared to 4 sticky bombs, but homings work better at a distance than RPGs, since RPGs are slower. It would take 5 RPGs anyway. If you plan to fight on foot, you may want to take advantage of a CEO slot. It has several benefits that aid ground players that most tryhards also take advantage of. A CEO can drop body armor and VST for themselves at a small price. Armor is self-explanatory. VST increases your damage output with guns and melee, while also decreasing the damage you take. Combined with armor, you can survive 1 homing missile, but a direct impact will still kill you. The CEO can use Ghost Orb for 12k. This keeps you off the radar for 3 minutes. Only use as needed. Anyone at the right level can also call Lester to go off radar for 1 minute for 500. Lastly, if you own an agency, you can call ImAnI to go out of sight for 12k. This is a defensive tool, as you will lose it once you kill a player. This also only works in a 500 meter radius. This is more useful for dogfighters in my opinion, but this can also be used to make a getaway, to prepare a comeback. Third person and first person actually play differently, but both have their perks. In first person, you can move around faster with finer control. You also can swap weapons much faster in first person, even allowing you to skip reloading guns if you time it right. First person also can spam jump, which is useful in some situations like climbing, or where sprinting is disabled, as spam jump is faster than jogging. In first person, you can make climbs on some ledges that you wouldn't be able to do in third person. Helmets aren't needed, but they can stop a few bullets before you're headshotted. Bike helmets stop about 1 bullet or so. Bulletproof helmets and other types will stop a few bullets before you're headshot. Otherwise, wearing no helmet and getting headshot usually results in 1 shot, 1 kill. Alright, that's all the time that we have for today. I want to thank Rocket for being patient with me. I had some horrible cases of on and off procrastination, and if I had just kicked myself in the gear any sooner, we would have had this episode out a lot sooner. If you liked what you saw, you may want to consider heading over to my channel. Once this episode is out, I'm going to get back into the swing of making content for my own channel again. I of course record PvP and funny moments for GTA Online, but I also happen to record for a bunch of other games that I happen to enjoy too. If you'd like to see some variety, that's where I'll be. I also happen to livestream, not really on a schedule, just kinda whenever I feel like it. So, you'll be able to see me by then too, and interact with me there. I may even be streaming once this episode is out. Either way, I'll see ya.